Welcome to the Cohn and Krueger show. Last time we spoke, last week was a day before the regular season schedule came out. So it's been a week, but I don't know what Larry thinks the Niners win-loss record is going to be. I'd love to hear what you think and your reasoning.
I had Adam. I did a thing on the show where we went, week by week and that kind of thing. And I got him at 11-6, but I can see 10-7. 10-7, 11-6 was my neighborhood. The guy I was doing it with had him at 13 wins. I thought that seemed a little optimistic, but I think they're a 10-win team for sure, and 11 is likely.
10-win team for sure. I'm waffling between 8 and 9 wins. I'm very down on this team. We've talked about it for the last couple of months, but the schedule seems tough, and I guess they could beat the Saints, and they could beat Washington, and they could beat a bunch of the teams they're supposed to beat, but I don't know. I guess if Talanoa Hufanga is really good, and Trey Lance is really good, and Aaron Banks is really good, and Javon Kinlaw is really good, then this team's going to reach expectations, but I'm a little nervous about some of these young guys that have nothing proven, that are just.
Yeah, I hear you. But to me, the big questions are the O-line. So you got Williams at left tackle, and then what? So to me, the left guard, the center, the right guard, the right tackle, the whole offensive line outside of Trent Williams is a big question. And then what exactly are you going to get out of the quarterback spot? Is Shanahan going to use the quarterback in a way that's going to put him in harm's way? We're going to see a lot of Sudfeld and Purdy. Is that going to happen? Obviously that would derail things. My whole 10-7, 11-6. I guess, basically was that Trey Lance would be in there and that he's going to be healthy. But that's a big question for me. Is he going to be in there, or is he going to be hurt? And how good is that offensive line outside of Trent?
Well, I think that the way the Niners sell this, the reason to be optimistic, think 10 or 11 wins, is look, they replaced Dee Ford. Dee Ford was a total loss last year. Now you got Drake Jackson. You replaced Jason Verrett with Trevarius Ward, and Jason Verrett's still around. Maybe if Jason Verrett gets healthy, he could be a contributor down the stretch. So from that, and plus they improved their special teams. So from the Niners' perspective, they improved all their weaknesses. They filled all their holes, but I feel like they created new ones. They clearly don't value the guard spot or the safety spot at all. Their attitude of strong safety is we'll play someone. It'll be a 5th round pick, or this 28-year-old vet who's never really been a starter, or Tavarius Moore. Who cares is basically their attitude, which is strange to me. That guy plays 100% of the snaps for you.
Yeah, it is an interesting approach they've taken to building the roster. I think they like Talanoa Hufanga. That's my guess. It plays that way. Yeah. And I like him a lot as well. And I think he'll get better from last year to this year. So maybe if that is indeed the case, then maybe it's Ward and Hufanga at safeties, and maybe all this hand wringing about not getting a safety in the 2nd or 3rd round. Maybe that they're looking at only backup safeties, and they think of Ward and Hufanga as the clear starters. That's my guess. The O-line is even more perplexing because we don't know what Banks is. We don't know what Moore is. We don't know what McKivitz is. They got to the NFC title game with Brunskill and Mack at the end of the line, and Tom Compton on the right side. So how good is that right side going to be? That's a big question.
Another thing that we don't really talk about anymore, but it's something you got to consider with the 49ers injuries. Even last year when they were relatively okay with injuries, they had a lot of them. It's a factor for them all the time. And I think one more thing, are they going to have a slow start like they had last year? The Niners are sort of figuring out who they're going to start at 4 or 5 different positions. They have some very young guys getting in there. It seems like Trey Lance, Drake Jackson, those guys could be better the second half of the season than the first. And it seems like also D'Amico Ryans could be searching for, his best 4-man pass rush on 3rd down. It might take him a few months to figure it out like it took him last year.
It's funny. I think they kind of got into that mode because they had so many injuries a couple years ago, and it's like, we don't want to do anything. We don't want to hurt anybody. But I kind of like that approach. I like the McVay approach, which is sit everybody and roll the dice in week one. Don't worry about, we got to be a tip top, efficiency week one, both sides of the ball. Sit your guys as much as you can in the preseason. The guys that matter should sit and sacrifice a game at the beginning of the year if need be, to make sure you get to week one with the roster that you intended to have.
Right. You might feel like you're not quite as prepared as you should be, but at least you haven't beaten yourself in the offseason, which the Niners used to do routinely. I made a full list of players that have gotten hurt in practice with the Niners. It was just outrageous. And the one guy I think the Niners should feel regretful about is D Ford. That guy got hurt in practice a lot. Everyone knew he's not a practice player, and the Niners invested big money to insist that he practice so they could have a culture. I mean, that was pretty bad. Anyway.
The one thing, though, Grant, too, that I think should not be lost is that when the Niners won all those 5 Super Bowls and they had those 20-year, 16 years, 10-plus wins or whatever it was, they oftentimes laid an egg early in the season at home. And a lot of times it was because they didn't go hard early in camp. And they got to the playoffs almost every one of those years with almost their full complement of stars, totally healthy. So maybe something should be gleaned from that.
In 94, I was 6, but in 94 when they won the Super Bowl, wasn't there a game early in the season when they lost big to Philly and scored like 8 points?
I was there, 40-8, the Charlie Garner show.
I remember being 6 and just catching the score on TV and thinking, like, the Niners don't lose like that. Everything I thought I knew about the world was shattered in that moment. The Niners 8, and I remember Steve Young yelling at George Seifert. You could see it. He was yelling at him, and Seifert wouldn't turn and look at him. It was like, well, you're dead to me today.
But they got to the playoffs in all those years, and Jerry was there, and Joe was there, and Steve was there, and Brent Jones was there. They didn't lose these guys because they probably they didn't lose them in camp for the most part. They lost. I think that 94 year they might have lost Richard Dent and early in the year to an injury, but other than that, they were almost fully healthy.
I think training camp practices are more dangerous than ever because I didn't cover it back in the day, but from what I understand, back in the day there was those grueling two-a-days. Now it's like, get all your reps in 90 minutes. It's like, hey, there's a lot of non-contact injuries that happen in those explosive settings, as opposed to, I would imagine if you're practicing for 6 hours a day, there's a lot of resting. I would imagine.
Well, it's hard to say. You saw the Tariq Cohen blow out his Achilles on TV. That was rough. Yeah. So anytime you're a football player and you're going full bore, there's a chance for catastrophic injuries. Whether they're caused by a player and an impact, or sometimes it's just, you run the pattern, you plant your leg and boom, gives out on you.
Yeah. Nick says Hufanga was in on the most important play in Green Bay and was stride for stride with Adams on the PBU. Seems like they trust him. He was taking time from Tart. Yeah. Well, we'll see.
He was their gold helmet guy, so they loved him in the draft.
They did. My question is, he feels like the kind of guy who's going to give up some big plays because he's instinctual and not super fast. So he's going to be trying to jump certain routes. At the same time, maybe he is a playmaker, unlike Tart, and it evens out. Or it's
what I'm banking on, Grant. We'll see this summer, but what I'm banking on is that you put Hufanga in an NFL, conditioning off season and give him a whole nother year in the defense where he's got, he's that much more confident of what he's seeing pre-snap. And I think you're going to see a player that might be a half step quicker. And if he's a half step quicker, he might be an all-pro player. So, this guy's an incredible talent. And I thought the fact that he stood up in that big play against Green Bay down the field shows that, he improved as the season went on, and I expect him to continue to improve. So if that's the case, he might be a quicker athlete than we saw a year ago. And if that's the case, he might be a better coverage player.
Well, he's never going to be in man-to-man coverage. The Niners will avoid it because they have Jimmy Ward for that. So he's going to be in different zones. And I remember interviewing Eric Davis about a year ago on my channel, and he kept saying, look, Richard Sherman is not too slow to be a safety. Merton Hanks wasn't particularly fast. But the reason he intercepted so many passes as a free safety is because he had great instincts. And if that can be Talanoa Hufanga, who's just in the right place in the right time in zone coverage, great. Wonderful.
I love his timing. And I thought one of the most effective things that I saw from the Niner defense, and I know you saw this late in the year because we talked about it, was how coordinated everything was. They would play fast up front. They're putting heat on the quarterback, and then they're playing fast behind it. And how many times did Hufanga show up as the ball is showing up? I thought his timing in down the stretch was phenomenal. Sometimes guys, especially as rookies, chase those plays from a step behind the entire year. His timing to close as the ball was arriving was impeccable. So I expect him to be really good this year.
That's a good point. The other side of that, though, is if you get a quarterback and a team that can extend plays,
right?
Boom, everything's man to man. Hufanga is getting targeted. I'm curious to see how teams are going to want to go at him. He's unproven. And really, everyone else in the Niners secondary is good. I don't know who their nickelback's going to be. If it's Mosley, then Ambry out, you go at Hufanga. So he's going to be targeted. He can prove himself.
He's going to be thrown into the fire, man. We're going to see. They're going to test him for sure.
Well, Troy Polamalu's sold. John Lynch is sold. That's 2 Hall of Fame safeties. I'm curious to see.
He played fast. He played fast at the end of the year, even though he didn't run fast for the stopwatch.
No, he didn't. Greg says, Grant, very nice shirt. Where can I get one? Oh, they'll be out in June. Don't worry. I promise. They're coming out. Chase says, Chase says Hufanga as an in-the-box safety is probably the best option. He's good at that. Maybe more brought in on third downs, other passing downs. See, that's what I thought. By the end of last year, I thought he was like, it was him and Warner at linebacker on passing downs. And you could use Hufanga as a nickel, a dime linebacker. I thought that's what they wanted to do, but now I guess I see him as a starter.
Well, I mean, you have a huge speed advantage if you can use him at linebacker, and he's pretty physical. So, he's a unique player. But you'd think you'd suffer a little bit in the run game if you played him too many downs at backer.
Right. That's why you do it like in like a dime package on third down. That's how they did it. I thought that's how they used him at the end of the season last year because Tart was still the starting safety. But Hufanga did play a lot. All right. Before we get into how this Niners offense is going to look, I just want to talk about Kyle real quick. He does so many things really well. A lot of teams would love to have Kyle Shanahan, and it does seem like his vision, along with his father's vision for what offense should be in the NFL, is kind of dominant right now, which is a testament to them. That being said, this guy's got a losing record. He's entering year 6, 3 games under 500. And he's got some weaknesses. In your opinion, what is his biggest weakness? What's the biggest thing holding him back?
Impatience. There's no doubt. He's one of the most impatient coaches when it comes to play calling. If the game gets out of hand, he loses patience. He gets away from the run game too quick, I think. And then also, I think some of the usage stuff is really questionable. The best player in the Super Bowl from an offensive perspective in the first half was Deebo Samuel. He got 2 touches in the second half. Yeah. And then in this Rams game, he didn't touch the ball in the final 13 minutes of the game. Yeah. So how he doles out the usage, and I think is questionable. And I think he lacks patience at times when he just wants to abandon the run and let's go up top. And it's like, sometimes it works, but we're going to find out. He's going to have to show some more patience with Trey this year.
I like it. Those are 2 good ones. I have 2 other ones. So this is going to be a list of Kyle Shanahan's weaknesses. This is constructive, though. To me, he's not a leader. He is not a leader. Now, hell of a play caller, but he doesn't even want to lead. I think he wants to be everyone's friend. He wants to be Kyle. He doesn't want to be Coach Shanahan. He just wants to be cool with them. He doesn't really want to make high-level decisions. He lets big decisions sort of linger. And I think the other edge of the sword is he allows players to be leaders. He allows Deebo to be the leader, or Jimmy. I mean, there's a leadership vacuum there, and Jimmy took it. Jimmy ran with it, and that's a big reason why they're having trouble getting rid of Jimmy, because the whole team looks at him as the leader. I just don't think they look at Kyle as – they look at him as a lot of things. He's an asset. He's a genius. He's Kyle. He's not a leader, in my opinion.
It's interesting. I think there's something to that because, I mean, he's an outstanding play caller, and he's a great play sequencer, and he's a ruthless play caller. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't seem – and he seems like an easygoing, likable guy. but I think he doesn't want to play the heavy sometimes with his guys. I mean, he could have pushed back on the roster last year and said, hey, you know what? I don't care if you don't like the way I'm using both quarterbacks. I'm the big here. You know what I mean? I think he's way more, let's get along. Let's try to get along.
Yeah, we're family. I don't want to strong arm anyone. One of my biggest assets is how tight knit we are and how much players like me. I'm a player's coach. Fine. You don't really want to be a leader. It's not in his nature, but he empowers players to be leaders, and that's a good thing. I think the real problem with Kyle is that he chokes. I'm sorry. He's done it 3 times. In the 3 biggest moments of his life, he choked in Atlanta. He choked in the Super Bowl here. He choked at the NFC Championship game. Like and you mentioned it, like usage of where is your star? Why can't you get the ball to Debo with the lead in the game on the line? The season on the line. Yeah, I'd have to say that 3 times is a trend. And now he's got a label as a choker. And now he's going to have to prove that, he's not that at this point.
Well, he goes away from the run too fast. I mean, almost every example that you just cited there, if they had run the ball a little bit more, they would have won.
Correct.
So I don't know. I think that as far as he, I don't know how I think he's good at getting a lead, but I don't know that he's done a lot of thought in exactly how he wants to coach with the lead. So, like, how do you finish out the game? Mm-hmm. Do you finish out the game by continuing to throw? I think, this Davis Price back, I think, is a big indication that how they want to finish games. They want to finish games running it between the tackle, but they need somebody who's more dynamic than the guys they got, because the guys they got aren't doing it.
Who's more bruising and more tiring to tackle than Elijah Mitchell? And they had Debo Samuel, but you can't ice games with your wide receiver, right?
Especially not anymore. No. I don't know. You could have, and you probably still could, but I don't think he really wants that moniker. I think that's a big part of the beef, I think, is that he doesn't want to finish games as this dynamic between the tackles guy, especially at the end of games. At the end of games, everybody knows you're running out the clock. That guy's going to take some pounding. So I think I think there's an uneasiness about Kyle about his play calling when the Niners have a lead in the second half, and he's not really sure. Do I keep the foot on the gas pedal and keep airing it out, or do I run the ball? And if I run the ball, do I run it with obvious runs, or do I try to fool them? I mean, he seems like his run game works so much better when he doesn't have the lead.
Here's it works better early in the game. It works better when you don't know it's coming, because Kyle and his dad's traditional run game is straight up finesse, outside zone. It's not down blocking. It's not moving people. It's just reaching and running. It's like a conga line. It's not pushing people. And so, like, if it's 1st and 10, the game's tight. Yeah, it could be play action. It could be a run. I mean, you can get some big plays, but once you're up 10 in the 4th quarter and they know that you got to run the ball, you can shut that down pretty quickly. And I think
think about it, Grant. When they know when play action is not a major factor, and when would that be? When you're up big or down big?
Yes.
Then all of a sudden they can't run. They cannot run. They can't run when they have a lead and they're trying to run out the clock. They can't run when everybody knows they have to run. Those are the 2 areas. It's a very phantom type run game. When he has play action, Greg Cosell talked about this with us for years. His play action, his run pass fusion is as good as anybody in the league. He will show you the exact identical look that you think he's going to throw it from, and then he runs it. And so when he creates that indecision, he's masterful. But when everybody in the joint knows he's going to run,
exactly.
Can't run.
Right. And in the past, too, like Kyle especially was obsessed with scat backs. He would have a committee of running backs. They're all 200 pounds, and they're all speed guys. And, again, like when he was in Atlanta, both Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman were shut down the second half because they're not that kind of run. They're not built like Leonard Fournette. All of a sudden, Kyle's pivoting, trying to get bigger running backs. Boom, Ty Davis Price. It seems like at least an acknowledgement that he wasn't built to close out the biggest games of his career. And now really his running game is going to be a lot different. You got an 11-on-11 running game now with bruisers coming downhill. It'll be interesting.
It is interesting. Can they run out the clock when they need to run out the clock? Can they run the ball when everybody knows they're going to run it, and when they don't have play action?
Because if you can't do that, then I don't think you can win the Super Bowl, unless you have a top 5 quarterback. And the Niners don't have that either. So,
but that makes TDP look good, because you know what? You do need. I've heard many coaches talk about this through the years. If you're going to be able to run out the clock and finish games, you got to have a 220-pound back. You cannot do it with a 200-pound back. He was 220. That's right. 225, 230 maybe. Yeah,
that's right. I remember my dad telling me a funny story he loves about Bill Walsh. My dad doesn't know that much about, or didn't know that much about football, and he was watching film with Walsh back in the 80s. Walsh used to let him in, and they're running the ball a lot in the second half. Walsh was famous for passing. My dad's like, "Why are you running the ball?" Bill's like, "Because we're winning in the second half. That's football. It's football.
We're trying to win.
That's how you win. That's how you set up the run with the pass. That's how he did anyway. It's football, and if you don't have that running back to win remember last year in Jacksonville, they were up big, but they were up big in Detroit earlier in the season, let it go. In Jacksonville, Kyle was nervous about it. So who did he hand off to up 21 in the third, fourth quarter? Debo. Can't do that anymore. That's unfair.
Yeah. It's just not gonna work anymore. No. It will work if you did it. It's just not gonna work as far as the relationship.
Right, and it's not a smart one. You can't use your best player, wide receiver, to ice games up big. No, that's Ty Davis Price's role. Ty. Go take another, shot. Go take another tackle. Prince KO says Matt Mayoko believes Jimmy will ask for his release when he can pass a physical if there is no agreed trade. Thoughts? Try to pick his own team. What do you think?
I agree. I actually personally think that a lot of this right now, I don't know that the Niners are going to get anything for Jimmy. I think it's a lot about don't let him go to Seattle 2 months ahead of time. I think Pete Carroll saying, "Oh, we're not going to trade for a quarterback." Yeah, you're not going to trade for a quarterback, but if Jimmy Garoppolo's free on the market in mid-July or early July, you'll sign him. And I really think that, I think the Niners better get ready for Jimmy going there. Unless they can orchestrate a trade, and it doesn't seem like that's probably in the cards, then they're probably just going to release him. The question is this. If you release him in July, that's good for you. And he doesn't know Seattle's offense as much if he goes there. But how's that going to play in the room with your vets? Are they going to look at that as you did Jimmy wrong? Or are they all in on loyalty to the Niners and the Niner brand? We're going to find out.
Here's how the Niners spin this. I'm trying to think like a PR director here. They've said they're not going to release Jimmy, but then Jimmy comes out and requests his release very professionally, very politely, because that's how he does. And he's like, long enough, please just release me so I can start over. And the Niners say, you know what? We wanted to trade Jimmy, but we're such good people.
Right. We're doing right by him.
We're doing right. But we didn't want to do this. But Jimmy asked, and he just smiled in a certain way. His eye, we looked at him, we couldn't say no to that face. So we want to be right by our players. We're gonna request his release. And then the locker room's like, wow, they took care of Jimmy. When of course they didn't. I don't know. That's how you could sell it. That's how you could.
I think that's possible. I could totally see that being possible. Ultimately, though, what if Jimmy does go to Seattle anyway and beats Trey Lance and the Niners in a couple games?
I would laugh so fucking hard.
I mean, would it cost somebody their gig? Would Lynch be out?
If the Niners miss the playoffs next year and they happen to lose a game to a Jimmy Garoppolo-led Seahawks team, someone's getting fired. Absolutely. And you know what? Niner fans, you might cry a little bit, but you'd have to laugh at some point because it's just cosmically hilarious that God had that intention. I'm not saying God, there's interventions here, but after what happened in Green Bay last year, I don't know. I felt like God really wanted the Niners to win that game. That was ridiculous. He blocked that punt. So I don't know.
What if next year turns into a rebuilding year for the Niners and a playoff year with Garoppolo leading the way and Kenneth Walker and the Seahawks win 9-10 games and go to the playoffs, and the Niners wind up going 6 wins, 7 wins?
Yeah, I think I would profit. I would benefit. It wouldn't hurt my business. I wouldn't lose my job, but it wouldn't be good.
Hi, this is Grant Cohn. This is my second channel. you have the second channel. Yeah, why not?
Exactly. Sven says, how many Oompa Loompas will be on the 2022 roster? I was on KTV yesterday. Sal Castaneda asked me what's going on with Debo in a straight face. I said he wants his Oompa Loompa now, and the 49ers don't want to give him his Oompa Loompa yet. That's essentially, I think, what's going on. I mean, it's like Debo kind of trying to strong arm him. Give me my money right now. And the Niners are like, we'll give it to you when we're ready. And I think they'll work it out.
So when do you think he'll get paid? This summer? Or do you think they'll make him wait?
Pretty much like when Fred Warner and Kittle got paid, right at the end.
Yeah.
Just because
makes sense.
Just to be consistent, I guess. All right. Let me ask you a question. Trey Lance, I mean, he didn't play much last year, but he has some stats, and there's an advanced stat, next gen stat. Time to throw. How long you hold the ball on average before you release it. He was at 3.37 seconds on average, which was by far the longest in the league of anyone who had stats at quarterback. Is this concerning to you, keeping in mind it's a small sample size?
If that is how he plays going forward, yeah, that's a concern. But I don't think that's
he has great pass protection.
Yeah. I mean, he's mobile. He showed a great mobility in that Houston game to kind of move around in the pocket and buy himself extra time. He was pretty dynamic, if I remember correctly. There were some free rushers at him, and he kind of slid him and bought him some extra time.
It's one of his best attributes, actually, I think.
Yeah. I mean, he can move well in the pocket. I would say that is a concern in an offense where you have, this many good weapons. I mean, I think the Niners have a lot of weapons. Get the ball out of your hand and into the hands of your weapons as fast as possible and take as few hits as possible. My whole thing with Lance is, they're right where they were 2 years ago when they said you got to have another quarterback. Okay. Well, now you got Lance, but now your number 2 Sudfeld. Who's Sudfeld? And then, and the guy from Iowa State, I mean, does he have an NFL arm? I heard that he did not have an NFL arm, at least in this last camp. So you're back to having one quarterback. So maybe taking care of the quarterback might be kind of, important. So getting rid of the ball might be kind of important.
If Trey Lance, if what we saw last year was a guy in the pocket, hesitating, standing there, not knowing where to go with the ball and getting hit, then I think this would be a huge freaking problem. But that's not really what I remember. I remember him extending a lot of plays. And when you do that, you're going to hold the ball longer. I mean, that's not always a bad thing if you're extending plays. I also remember a lot of long play action bootlegs. That's just naturally going to be a longer developing play. I guess if he is incapable of doing the quick stuff when asked, that's a huge problem. But I didn't see that. I thought he did some of that in the Houston game.
Well, here's the other thing, too. One of the biggest criticisms of Garoppolo, and I've heard Greg Cosell say it, it sounds great. It's like baseball players who used to suck. It'd be like they strike out too much. Now it's, hey, there's a little bit too much swing and miss in their game. Football, it's like,
so polite.
To say a quarterback sucks is too it sounds too fan-like. So you have to come up with smarter dialogue. Greg Cosell would be like, Jimmy's not a late in the down thrower. He's not late in the down thrower.
No, it's what he does. He predetermines a read. I'm going here. I'm going to Kittle. And he'll just throw it there no matter what. That's a big reason he throws so many picks. I think Lance is he'll look at the field.
And also great quarterbacks extend plays. I mean, you got Tom Brady's not an awesome mover, but he is good late in the down thrower. Same with Aaron Rodgers. Why? Because they can make those subtle movements, decisive movements in the pocket to buy themselves an extra second or two, extend the down and find their guy down the field.
Make a good decision.
Jimmy couldn't do that. Couldn't do that. So I think Lance gives you somebody who can be – you don't want him holding the ball forever, but I agree with you. That wasn't what I saw last year either. I saw the first game, throw out the first game. The second game, I saw the Niner O-line really struggle and get whipped up front by the Texans D-line, and Lance was oftentimes running for his life, and I thought he did it almost expertly in that game.
Yeah, like Jimmy Garoppolo gets rid of the ball quickly. Great. He predetermines reads. That's a big reason why he throws so many picks. And then he's terrible extending plays. Like extending plays, it's not even about his athleticism. He could do it a little bit when he got here. It's about the decision making. Once the play is gone and he can't just say like, okay, Kyle wanted me to throw to this guy against this coverage. Oh, I actually have to read the field and make a decision. I mean, we've seen him throw the ball to the other team so many times. I mean, in Green Bay, in the end zone, in Dallas, the game before, Trayvon? He does it all the time. Whenever he extends a play, it's like, no, Jimmy, no. I think with Trey, good things are going to happen more than bad things happen when he extends a play. So to me, not worried about this. There's another stat that's interesting also. He led the league in air yards per attempt, more than 10 yards downfield on average.
Lance.
Yeah. Sorry, not Garoppolo.
Yeah.
So, that's interesting because that's kind of like the polar opposite of Garoppolo.
Yeah. And Garoppolo I'd love to see it. If you could go and delineate every single drop back and look at his QB rating when he got rid of it quick, as opposed to his QB rating when he held it. His QB rating when he held it was a disastrous. And he was, how many picks was he late over the middle into a crowd? To me, when Garoppolo he was not good at extending plays. When he did extend plays, bad things happened most of the time.
That's exactly how I will remember him. Yeah, I mean, time in the pocket. They have it on Pro Football Reference. This is, I mean, take it with a grain of salt. But when he got rid of the ball in less than 2.5 seconds, Jimmy Garoppolo, his quarterback rating was 104.
It's not bad. Good. Over 100.
That's damn good. But 2.5 plus seconds, 90.
Yeah,
90 with 9 touchdowns and 7 picks. I mean, boom, that's Jimmy right there.
That's it. That's it.
Throw it away.
Seriously.
Go down.
As Hawk Harrelson used to say, put it on the board.
Yeah, good call.
Yes. Put it on the
that's
board.
how we remember that guy. So,
yeah.
But last thing I want to say with Lance is, like, he's going to be throwing the ball down the field a lot. He's probably not going to complete 65% of his throws, if that's what he's probably going to be hovering around 60%. A better indicator of his success might be yards per attempt as opposed to completion percentage, because it's going to be a whole different shot chart.
I'll put it on two stats that I think he's going to be way better than Jimmy. I think he's going to have fewer turnovers. I think he's going to take care of the football.
I agree.
A lot better. And then ultimately, I think all quarterbacks should be judged on win percentage. Yep. Because at the end of the day, do you win the game? And I think Lance is going to be a guy who wins a lot of games. But I agree, the completion percentage, it could be in the 50s. I mean, at times, because he throws a rocket. It's not the most catchable football. There's going to be drops. There's going to be tip passes. Get ready for that completion percentage to be down. But the big play ability is also going to go up.
Because he's very aggressive. He's looking to push the ball down the field, as opposed to Jimmy, who's looking to check it down. All right. Double B Studio says Kyle overthinks it, changes up success at the end. Overthinks it, or his brain just gets frazzled. I'm going with frazzled. To me, it's not a lot of thinking. I think his brain shuts off. He does things that are out of character. I don't know. Maybe it's just the running game. Gizmo
I don't know. As far as I think they make some questionable decisions as far as managing the clock, his fourth down decisions, when to go for it, when not to go for it. He's always caught. He's not always, but it seems like he's had issues where he's caught in a bad angle. I was standing behind somebody. I mean, it just seems like he's got too much on his plate managing the game.
I agree. Nick says, in the amount of years covering the team, where does this season fall in your level of excitement, anticipation of covering the team from past years?
That's a good question. Yeah, I would say, because first of all, I like this roster, and coming out of the draft, I like it a lot. I think they're pretty deep in a lot of spots. So I think this is a pretty good roster. That's why I have them at 11 wins. And I think Lance, there's been so much talk about Jimmy. I think Lance is going to be an upgrade on Jimmy. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing it.
I think this season is a wonderful combination of high expectations and uncertainty. I mean, I've never seen a team ever be really pretty much universally predicted to win 11 games, and we don't know who their quarterback is. I love it. There's going to be a quarterback competition, maybe. I mean, there's a quarterback controversy. I love it. I think it's great. Set that bar really high, so if the Niners fall short, I can just come in like, hey.
Is Jimmy going to be on the field? I don't think Jimmy's going to be on the field. Do you?
I hope so.
Oh, I can't picture. I'd be shocked. My mind will be blown if I see him in a Niner uniform this summer.
Hey, I think, again, if Jimmy Garoppolo requests his release, that really gives the 49ers an out. And I don't think they can put him on the practice field if he requests his release. Just say, okay, fine. We'll be the good guys here. We'll be like the Bears with Nick Foles. So hopefully Jimmy does that. He might. If Maddie said it, maybe he heard it. I don't know. Gizmo Maltese says, if we start the season with Nate Sudfeld as our backup quarterback, is it safe to say the front office is incompetent? Well, that leads me to my next question. How many starts can Lance miss without the 49ers falling short of the playoffs this year? Assuming that Nate Sudfeld is the next man up.
3.
He can miss 3?
3. Wow. That's it. You think that's high? I was thinking.
I don't trust Nate Sudfeld at all. At all.
I'm not even sure it's going to be Nate Sudfeld. Maybe, who knows? Maybe Manny Wilkins. Didn't you see Manny Wilkins?
Brock Purdy completed like 95% of his throws that day. I was just nitpicking him because I do that.
Really?
I thought
he looked great that day because I read your article. You didn't seem like you were too overwhelmed.
I think he had 4 incomplete passes. I just thought he had nothing on his throws, but honestly, he couldn't miss.
What do you think of Manny Wilkins from ASU? 6'5"? No, pretty athletic.
Yeah, pretty athletic.
He's probably if Kyle is to be taken at his word, Grant, if Kyle's going to be taken at his word that he wants a backup quarterback that is, somewhat similar to his starter for whatever reason, then Manny Wilkins is this guy. Manny Wilkins is. Yeah, exactly.
I don't take Kyle at his word. I'm thinking 2 is dangerous. I feel like Lance, if he misses one game, I think the Niners can survive one game of Nate Sudfeld. More than one, it'll be so demoralizing. I don't know why he's on this team. He seems like a practice squad guy, someone that you want in the building or in the meeting room, sort of giving suggestions like a caddy, but not playing. Not playing. I mean, Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl. A couple years later, had Nate Sudfeld on the field, got fired. I mean, he's that. I don't know, man. I think it's scary.
I mean, I didn't watch a ton of Indiana football, but what I do remember wasn't all that impressive. I remember kind of a big quarterback with kind of a mediocre arm and mediocre accuracy. That's what I remember.
Kyle's favorite type of quarterback. What is it about Kyle? He sees a guy who's like at a kind of a mediocre school, starter for like 3-4 years, not particularly physically impressive. Didn't even like win a championship. Had a good career. Kyle's like, oh my God, that is my guy. That is the next.
What I could do with that guy. Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God. I think I missed one. Hold on. Nick, in the amount of years covering, I got that one. The excitement. Hold on. We got one more and then we'll get back to our, that was a quick one. I just feel like there's a lot of pressure on Trey. Like, yeah, be good, but also be healthy all the time. Don't miss any games. They can't afford you to be Jimmy Garoppolo. And I'm sorry, Jimmy.
Which makes that whole Arizona game plan last year just more baffling when you think about it. If we see even one game plan like that this year where they're exposing Trey to hits, my biggest fear with Trey is that Trey doesn't fear the defense. And my biggest fear with Trey is partly tied to Shanahan doesn't fear going with Sudfeld. Mm-hmm. I mean, seriously, fear Sudfeld, fear Purdy. I mean, coach, protect Trey with your play calling. Coach him up like you have a one quarterback room because you may only have one quarterback you can win games with.
But I mean, like, let's take that to its logical end. If you have no confidence in Nate Sudfeld, as you shouldn't, and you're feeling like we got to get Trey Lance through 16 or 17 games, that's going to affect how you call plays, Larry. That's going to affect how many quarterback-driven runs you call, Larry. And really, to have a guy like Trey Lance, you owe it to your team to have him run 6 or 7 times a game. What if Nate Sudfeld cuts that number in half just by existing?
I don't want to see Trey run at all. I really don't. I mean, think about it. Risk reward. You're going to risk 2 yards. You're going to risk your starting quarterback and a season of Nate Sudfeld for 2.5 yards up the A gap. I mean, let's factor in a little risk reward on some of this play calling using Trey this year.
You're right, but all I'm saying is, like, look, people compare him best case scenario to Josh Allen. Josh Allen runs. I mean, imagine if in Buffalo they're like, look, you can't run anymore. That would hurt their offense big time. It was going to hurt the Niners offense if Trey Lance isn't allowed to run. And if he's not allowed to run, that's Nate Sudfeld's fault. Blame Nate. They should have Rod Taylor on this team. I still am surprised that they
let him scramble. Let him scramble. There's going to be enough time. There's going to be enough scramble opportunities that you don't really need to call a lot of design runs. That's the way I'll get it.
I agree with that. And you should maybe call one design run a game, and it should be a surprise, and it should be for a touchdown or a first down. Like,
exactly.
You know what I mean? It's.
I'll tell you what I do want to see. I want to see Danny Gray on an RPO handoff going left, and I want to see Trey going right. And I want to see that a couple times a game and I want him to see him hold that mesh point because that is what puts tons of pressure on a defense. You got a 4-3 burner and you got a mobile quarterback rolling out to his arm side. I mean, absolutely. That to me is intriguing.
Well, how about this? Okay. last year the Niners' best play was the shotgun sweep, turnaround sweep to Debo from right outside the red zone, right? So why don't you modify that concept? You can still do it from the shotgun, but do it with Debo coming in front of the quarterback and have Trey Lance keep it and go in the B gap. So now you have an option built off of that play. How do you stop Debo and Trey Lance on that play? It's impossible. Or Danny Gray. It's impossible. So I think that should work. Should work.
I want to see I want to see how much room Danny Gray can create for the Debos, the Ayuks, the Kittles. I think it's going to be huge. I think those guys are going to have big playability.
First impression of Danny Gray in person.
Yeah, what'd you think? You were there.
The speed is real.
Yeah.
He's really fast. He's really super fast. The question with him is sort of like hands, I guess. Hands and toughness. I mean, he was tough at SMU, but will it translate? And can he catch the ball well enough to be a starter in the NFL? I'm curious. I mean, he could catch it from Brock Purdy. It's a little different with Trey. We'll see. But so far, he runs good routes too. He gets open. He can run in-breaking routes, out-breaking routes. It's encouraging.
How did the G-Tech running back look like to you? And I know you wrote about him.
He looked fluid. He looked good. It's really hard to judge running backs in 7-on-7, but he just looks like a much more natural receiver.
Yeah.
Tyrus Price is fighting the ball when it comes to him.
But
I don't think they're going to use him that way. They're not going to throw the ball to Ty Davis Price.
They're going to use him between the tackles.
Yeah.
He's going to be between and he's patient and he's pretty explosive. So I kind of like what they did. The guy that I'm a little nervous about is Drake Jackson, just because it seemed like he was winded and it looked like he was a little bit out of shape, and he's had these fluctuations of weight, and they're kind of projecting him as the starter opposite Bosa. He's the one guy that I hope he shows up in camp at the right weight, ready to roll.
It was 7-on-7, so I didn't even really look at him that closely. I'll be looking at him in OTAs. He should be playing a lot, and we'll see.
Yeah,
I'll be watching him. I'll be watching to see if he's winded. That's very interesting. That's a bad sign. That's not a good sign. Fancy way to say Jimmy Garoppolo can't read defenses. Yeah, did I not say that explicitly? He can't. I'm sorry. No clue what he's looking at. Or maybe no, he just doesn't. All right, next question. Who will lead the 49ers in rushing this season? And the reason I ask that is they've never had a player, since Kyle Shanahan's been the head coach, lead the team in rushing in back-to-back seasons. It's always been someone new. Last year was Elijah Mitchell. It could be Elijah Mitchell again. What do you think?
I'm going to say Trey Sermon. I know people are going, what? Come on. Trey Sermon's not even going to be on the team. But I think Trey Sermon is, had 1 year to look at this offense, get in the best shape of his life, learn it like the back of his hand. Bobby Turner's no longer there. He's a slasher, and I think he could be really, really good in this offense. And I think I like Ty Davis Price. I see a role for him. I love Mitchell. I see a role for him, but I think Mitchell's going to be a little bit less dynamic this year. He's going to play bigger. I think he's going to play at closer to 215. And I think you'll see Trey Sermon come in, 215, 220 in that range, real lean, ready to roll, faster, quicker, knowing the offense. I like Trey Sermon.
See, I was going to go with the unexpected one because I thought you were going to say Elijah Mitchell or Jeff Wilson, because those are the two guys who got the most carries last year. I just not picking either one of them because I feel like the person who ends up leading the Niners in rushing is the last man standing. And those guys get hurt a lot. So I'm going to go with the rookie. Even though I didn't like the pick at all, Ty Davis Price, I think he's going to be the last man standing. It could be Sermon. It's going to be whoever the number 3 guy is after those two. That's the way I look at it. You think it's going to be Sermon? Could be. I think it's going to be Ty Davis Price. I don't know what it is about Sermon.
They're pretty stacked. They're pretty stacked there.
They're pretty, and all these running backs are getting big. And you got Jordan Mason waiting as the 5th guy. I don't think they need Jermichael Hasty anymore. I think they could use Elijah Mitchell as a 3rd down back. He's actually a good receiver. I don't know why they didn't throw the ball at him more. He's a better receiver.
How about the Hawaii kid? How do you look in the minicamp? Calvin Turner.
I didn't notice him. There was a dude.
Calvin Turner was a stud at Hawaii, and he's one of those guys that I don't know if he's dynamic NFL athlete, but he was incredible playmaker at Hawaii.
I don't remember him, but it was just one practice. Another guy was this guy Kiki Chisholm from
Missouri, big tall receiver from Missouri. He's like 6'6". That's another thing. I mean, we talk endlessly about Danny Gray. He runs 4.33. The season ended because you couldn't cover a 4.62 wide receiver in Cooper Kupp. So now you got to remember, it's 40 time means something, but in it doesn't mean everything. Chisholm looks like a big possession receiver. I don't know if he's going to be better be able to make contested catches because he can't escape anybody. But that I'm eager to see what he looks like this summer.
He was just going up against rookies in the Niners secondary in 7-on-7, but all three of his catches were explosive plays. He had a 20-yard catch down the right sideline where it was a back shoulder fade where he stopped, jumped, and made the whole twisting catch. That's impressive. And then he had 2 on Diggs where he caught the ball and accelerated away from the DB. I was impressed. No, I don't know. I mean, they didn't even sign him. He's not even on the team. Maybe that says more about what the Niners DBs and what Danny Gray. Maybe some.
Well, it also may be a statement. I mean, look at some of these picks. When you look at the running back from LSU, and you look at Chisholm, and everybody's going speed, everybody's going nickel, everybody's going dime. Suddenly, the 49ers are going, hey, we're going to go big. We got Jawan Jennings. Mm-hmm. We're picking up this guy Chisholm. We added another 225-pound running back. Yeah. It's like they're trying to take advantage of this theme on defense where everybody wants to go smaller, quicker, faster, and they're saying, you know what, you want to go small, quick, fast, we're gonna beat you with size.
I think it's smart. Jay says respect where respect is due. Larry is fully engaged in bringing it today. Last week was a rough day for them, but the man has fully bounced back. What about? That's harsh, Jay. That was a real backhanded compliment, but thanks. I thought Larry was great last week. I don't know.
You're good today.
Russ says, saw Grant on KTVU yesterday. Coat tie look pro. The blue jeans look punk. Okay. All right. In my defense,
what did you go? What did you go with on the KTVU?
I went with suit and tie up top, and I had Levi's on the bottom. I thought we'd be at a desk sitting down. Every time I've been on KTVU, we've been at a desk sitting down. They had us at this. It was upstairs with Sal Castaneda. It was Sal Castaneda.
Sal Castaneda.
It wasn't even sports, and we were standing up. I was like, oh no. So it was my fault. I just expect. I was going to go with shorts.
You could have gone shorts.
I was going to go with shorts. Mark,
next time you go suit and tie up top and go flip flops. That would be the look.
Dark Halo says Jimmy Garoppolo and Kyle Shanahan have brain freeze in common. Brain frazzle. Don't we all? I get so frazzled sometimes. Writing on deadline. That is tough. I don't have to do that anymore because I don't work for a newspaper. But sometimes, oh my God, basketball games would finish at 9:30. Your deadline would be 11. Try to get quotes. Good luck. Not fun. That's frazzle. That's harder than anything any sports athlete has to do. Just kidding. Sid Brown. What?
You probably heard Dad talk about that all those years.
Oh my God. When he would come back after those nights, he'd be so worked up. Have to drink a couple glasses of wine, not a couple bottles. But you got to calm down somehow. That's a lot. That is the most adrenaline you could possibly get not playing a sport. It feels like a sport. Sid Brown says Kyle has definitely changed the run game personnel. This looks more like a Harbaugh power run between the tackles, offense that can run outside zone. Totally agree.
Especially the line. Banks, Moore. Any of those old linemen look like anything to you, by the way? You were down there. Any of those guys look like anything?
Again,
the kid from Mercer, Poe.
7-on-7, but I met Spencer Burford.
Yeah? What'd you think?
He looks like an NFL offensive tackle. He looks athletic, lean, long arms, super young.
Maybe too lean, right?
Maybe too lean, but he's like 20 years old or 21. I wouldn't be surprised if he's their starting right tackle next year. Put it that way.
This year?
Next year.
I
don't think McGlinchey's coming back. And I don't know if McGlinchey's going to even work out this year. I think Burford is someone to watch. They gave him Joe Staley's number. That's
saying something.
That's saying something. Last question. Who will be the 49ers breakout player this summer? And define what you mean by breakout player.
I just mean somebody that you absolutely were not counting on, and that player then not only makes the roster, but plays a significant role on the roster.
Yeah.
It's hard to say because there's different levels of this stuff. As far as who's likely to make it, who's likely to everybody. There's just the young guys. It could be an undrafted guy. I like Quantrez Knight. I know that's crazy because he's an undrafted guy out of UCLA who I like Quantrez Knight. I just think Knight, he's instinctive. He's played a bunch of different positions. He's experienced. He'll bring down athletes in open space. He's good against the run, smart player. He can play nickel corner. I just think in a world where the NFL goes nickel and dime, huge percentage of the time, I think a player like Quantrez Knight's got value. I think he's going to make the team and play a role.
Can I tell you something about him that you may not know or that might make you happy?
Sure.
Okay, so at this rookie minicamp, I'm expecting Sam Womack to be the nickel. He wasn't. He played only outside, and the nickel was Quantrez Knight. So, I mean, he
That's
didn't
a
dominate.
need. That's a need, right?
Yes. So he could make the team. Absolutely. There is absolutely a path for him to make the team if he plays well. So that's a great one.
Yeah.
Last year, I guess it would have been, I mean, people said Trent Sherfield, but he didn't end up doing anything. I think it would have actually been Azeez Al-Shaair. And maybe I can't tell. I can't tell that a linebacker is about to go off because they don't hit in practice. But I think it was probably him because everyone thought he would be sort of like a part-time player after Dre Greenlaw, and he was way better than Dre Greenlaw.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Azeez Al-Shaair might be their best linebacker.
I agree. Hot take.
There are people, Fred Warner, right? Yeah.
He hits harder than Fred Warner. He runs faster than Fred Warner. Warner used to be the best coverage linebacker in the NFL, but that wasn't the case last year. So yeah, I'm with you on that. Pretty good player.
Pretty good linebacking core.
Okay, let me think of one more guy.
Yeah, who's your guy? Who do you think breaks out in any way, shape, or form? The other guy that I would go with, and it's not just because I like the nickname. I love me some Tay Martin. I like Big Play Tay from Oak State. He's 6'3". He's got long arms. He's got good ball skills. He's not fast, but he's quick. And I think there's Kendrick Bourne-like potential there, but even maybe a little bit better. So I like Big Play Tay Martin from Oak State.
I don't think Drake Jackson's going to have a huge offseason just because he's young. I think he's going to be a kind of guy who comes on later in the year if he comes on. But I've known Kyle Shanahan a little bit. He often signs a guy in free agency, and people are like, "Why did you like this guy?" And then he kind of has this chip on his shoulder to prove that he was right. This guy's good. I have a vision. And this year, the guy that kind of raised eyebrows was Ray McLeod. They gave him a lot of money, and people were like, "That's a lot of money for a return specialist who runs a 4.5." He's like, "Oh no, he's going to be a key part of our offense." So I don't know if he actually will be a key part of the offense in games, but I have a feeling in OTAs and minicamp and training camp, he's going to get a lot of usage. He's going to get for whatever reason, and you're going to see a lot of rave reviews you're going to see a lot of interviews with Ray McLeod where he talks about how his whole life built up to this moment. And I'm just saying, Ray.
Hold on to the ball, Ray. He got 6 fumbles last year, didn't he?
Absolutely. And hold on to the ball, Ty Davis Price, because if you don't, Elijah Mitchell's taking your spot because he never fumbled the ball ever.
At the end of the day, what was the line from what was it? No block, no rock. Was that Danny Gray said that this weekend?
Yeah, I like that.
No block, no rock.
Yeah, I like that. All right. Breakout player. Anyone else you got? Anyone else you could think of? Someone on the offensive line is going to have to step up and take a job.
Yeah, I like Jalen Moore. I don't know what happened. You were there a good portion of what happened to Jalen Moore? Why did Jalen Moore go from looking like almost like a plug and play week 1 starter throughout the preseason to at the end of the year, we were told he was going to get 50% of the snaps with Tom Compton, and he didn't get any. So something happened between preseason and the end of the year where Jalen Moore, in the eyes of the offensive line coach or the offensive staff, lost a lot of face. I got to think Jalen Moore, if my eyes told me in the preseason, this guy can play. He can play guard, he can play tackle, he can play right side, he can play left side. He may not be all pro, but he can play. He's an NFL starting offensive lineman. And then he just didn't play. So I'm expecting him to be good this summer.
The way I remember it, I could be wrong. In preseason, he was starting left tackle, right?
I thought so.
For like most starting left tackle because Trent Williams wasn't playing, and he was good. He really put out good tape in preseason. Then when McGlinchey went down, I think they gave him the first crack at replacing him as starting right tackle. And if I remember correctly, they benched him at halftime of his first start. And if I remember correctly, I went back and watched the tape. He got his ass kicked.
Who was that? Do you remember that team who they played that day?
It might have been the Rams. Hold on. Let me check. Let's get it right.
Because you're talking about a guy who played good football in college.
Yeah.
Looked great at the Senior Bowl.
Yes.
They drafted him, looked great in camp.
Yes.
Then played left tackle the majority of the preseason and looked, rookie left tackles is baptism by fire typically. It was not that. He looked totally like he belonged.
Okay,
and then by the end of the year, he's not playing at all.
It was against the Rams. I want to say, hold on. I mean, he played 19 snaps against the Rams. They benched him. He started the next game against Jacksonville and played 65% of the snaps. I don't know. I think basically what they did was they platooned him and Tom Compton at first, and they just felt that Tom Compton was better. And I think on film he was. Tom Compton was not bad last year. I mean, he was bad in pass protection, but as a run blocker,
as a run blocker, he was good.
Really good. Yeah. He was good. So I think that's kind of what
guard
happened.
Playing tackle or right tackle, and he was blowing people off the line. So I get it, but
he was getting downfield better than
not only was a street free agent, he's also a free agent at the end of the year, and he's on another team now. And you could have invested those snaps into Jalen Moore. Now you might have a little bit more solidified O-line going into this year, but instead you go to camp with Banks and Moore being pretty much unknown still.
Yes, ditto for the quarterback position. Kurt the Chameleon says, Grant, you're going to hate me for this, but I'm thinking 12-5 purely based on defense. Just think they'll be ranked high again. Yeah, I mean, this is a defense that was top 5 last year without Drake Jackson or D Ford, without Travarius Ward or Jason Verrett. Like, they could essentially have a second really good corner and a second really good edge rusher. That would make an excellent defense way better.
You added Ward and a second-year Hufanga, I think, as starters to the secondary. You're stacked at linebacker with fast guys, and you're even more stacked on the D-line despite losing DJ Jones. I guess my big question on the D would be how good are they against the run right at them in the A-gaps? How good can Kinlaw stay healthy enough to be, an interior run plugger? Because that's what he is.
If you can't stop the run up the A-gap in the wide 9 defense, you're screwed.
It's a long day.
It's a long day because it's just one guy getting double teamed, and if he's getting pushed left and right, you can't stop the run. You can't. Your linebackers are getting blocked. It's bad. So DJ Jones could do it. We'll see if Kinlaw can. Anyway,
Kalia Davis, by the way, is a rookie that I really love, but I don't know if we'll even see him this year.
I doubt it. But Hassan Ridgeway's here. I mean, if Chris Kasarik likes him, I think he could probably. What is he more of a pass rusher though? Is he a little smaller?
I think so. I think he's got quick feet and he gives you a little interior rush, but he's a little bit better against the run than Street was, I think. Okay.
Is he more of like an Arden Key replacement than DJ Jones replacement?
Well, I don't. He's a tackle for sure, but he's and he's a 310-pound big tackle. But he's not Arden Key, but he's not as nearly as functionally strong as DJ against the run. I think they take a step back there, which is why they need Kinlaw to step up and be that unbelievable force because he's got that ability to do it.
Okay. Well, that'll wrap it up for this week. Next week, the Niners have their first week of OTAs. We'll actually be able to talk about what it looks like with Trey Lance taking all the first team reps for the first time in his career. We'll have some other things to talk about as opposed to theoretical stuff. Thanks for watching. Larry, what do you got going on tonight and tomorrow?
Tonight I'm doing a little post game on the Warriors Mavericks game 1, a little post game tonight, right around 9:00. And, we're just doing post game on the Giants, post game on the Warriors, biding our time, doing a lot of live streams, usually looking back at the draft or ahead to training camp on the Niner front. So that's pretty much what I'm cooking up on the channel right now. The Krug Show. Check it out.
Make sure you subscribe to the Krug Show. Tune in, subscribe. Donate, all that good stuff. Larry, thank you.
Thank you, man. Have a good one.
Thanks, everyone.